Hi, I'm Brenda Reiss, a relationship healing mentor and coach. I work with smart, caring, driven, and accomplished high achieving women over 40 who find themselves to be powerful at work, but they're having a little issue in their personal relationships, maybe grappling with the sting of betrayal and loss. And I guide them into feeling more confident and have more clarity around who they are in every aspect of their life. And today I am going to introduce to you Kim, who is with me, and we are going to chat a little bit about what that means and how I work with people because we're getting some questions about that, and we're going to see what we can chat about. Hey, Kim.
Where this conversation leads us today, right?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me. I know I said it before, but I just so enjoy the time that I have with you. And in our conversation the other day, this kind of came up, right? It's like, because I want to share you with the world. I feel like everybody, of course, needs a little Brenda in their life. So I think that my question to you, and as I was coming to you, because I was talking to some friends about the work that you do, and so maybe you could describe a little bit what you do as a coach, what that means, because it's different than a therapist, right? It's got a little different structure, and so maybe you could talk a little bit about what that means.
Absolutely. And I think that what people get confused about between a therapist and a coach is the coaches aren't what we get to do is we get to guide you in every aspect of your life. So we're a guide and a mentor versus someone who has been gone to school and they're actually required by law to follow certain rules and regulations. Coaches don't have that, at least in the state of Washington. And so what we get to do is we get to be right by your side and we get to sit in the corner with you. We get to walk along the path with you. And what we do is we ask you questions. So what I do as a coach and a mentor is I get to ask questions to go deeper into your knowledge and your wisdom. Because what I'm here to kind of work myself out of a job. I am here to actually be able to deepen your knowledge and information about who you are as a person. Bring out that self-awareness and that self-love and that self-acceptance so then that you can draw on your own wisdom to be able to move forward. And I use that as a mix of trainings, all the different trainings that I've gone through. Forgiveness is a piece of that. Also, any kind of guides around the beliefs and the patterns that show up that really sabotage our lives. Because what we find is that we can be really excelling in one area, but why am I not excelling over here? And most of that is personal relationships, because we've got some things that have happened that are in our subconscious, but we don't know they're there. So having someone reflect outside of you and the ability to go answer those questions so that you can get that aha moment is absolutely amazing. And I have benefited so much from having my own coach and coaches that I find that it's just really fulfilling to help people find their own inner wisdom.
No, I love that because one thing, of course, I love working with you, and I have also worked, avidly with therapists, and I think that one of the differences that I really notice is what you said there in the beginning is that I do kind of feel like we're in this together, right? I feel like when I come to you and we talk, I'm not, sometimes I feel like when I go to my therapist, which is also very necessary,
Yes.
I'm not taking anything away from that. But it's not that it's judgment, but it's also, it kind of makes, sometimes I'm a little bit afraid to go a little bit deeper because sometimes for me, that'll feel like they're going to require me to do things that maybe are too challenging or I don't understand, or sometimes I just like maybe don't even really know if what I'm getting out of that is always, like I can't necessarily see movement. But one thing that I really enjoy when I work with you is that I really feel like it's kind of like a partnership, right? Like I feel like when I bring things to you or we talk about things, it's not so much where you're just asking me questions and having me self-identify, although you do that. I feel like a lot of times you really kind of, we keep going down that path, and so we're able to unpeel things and dig deeper really, really quickly.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing that a lot of my clients have said to me is like, Brenda, I'm telling you things I haven't even told my therapist.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's something about you provide a safe space, and that is just so that's what I want. I want this feeling of safety in this container so that we can bring out all the shadows and the secrets, because what I learned years ago is we are only as sick as our secrets.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. And that was really valuable for me, because how many of us, because of shame and guilt and the things, we think we're hiding it,
And
but it is
self-judgment, right?
right,
Like,
self-judgment. And therapists are really important because they're trained in deeper, like when you actually do have the mental illness or mental things that are just deeper and you need some trained person about. That's not me, right? That's above my pay grade.
right.
But there is ways that I can help people even through some trauma and even through some, relationship issues, especially. So I'm trained in that. And then if there's deeper, like if there's certain, what do I want to call it? Certain diagnoses that you have, then that's really important to be able to have that therapist for, because I've used and I've gone to therapists too, which have helped me in the past.
Oh, yeah.
And so the difference of that is really being able to just be with you, like having a friend as you're going along, a companion who is there for you, that's really going to tell you the truth. Because this is the other thing that I hear from clients a lot is like, you're like the velvet hammer,
Yeah.
in a loving way.
Yeah.
Because when people come to me to work with me, they're hurting and they want results. They want to get through this, and they're willing to do the work. That's the key here. Because if somebody wants to stay in their pain, I'm not the coach for you.
Right.
I'm
You
not
know,
the
that,
mentor for you.
and I think that that's actually an interesting difference. Not that we only go to therapy when we feel like we have to, but sometimes that is a caveat. It's like, okay, stuff is really crazy and for whatever reason. But I do feel differently when I talk to you as opposed to my therapist. Not that they're both really essential for me in my life, but I do feel it doesn't, it kind of feels, it just feels softer, right? It feels like when the work that I do with you, I can go away and not feel overwhelmed. I actually come away going, oh, I can do that one thing. I can start with that one thing and then start to move through it and then come back to you and we kind of sort through whatever that next layer is.
And with a coach too, you find, at least for me, is we do check-ins.
Yeah.
Where a therapist, you're like, okay, see you next week or see you in 2 weeks. There's no, I think some therapists might provide that,
Oh,
but
yeah.
really very few. But with coaches, we run our businesses a little bit differently. We are creating this relationship between me and the client, right? Where we have check-ins. It's like, I know this was a tough story to go through. How are you doing? And that's one of the things that a lot of people say to me is like, Brenda, wow, you really care. You really go do the extra steps to have me feel like I'm being held, or someone's right here by my side. So I'm not facing this story situation feeling alone. And that's another difference, is being able to do that and have the ability to be able to reach each other by text or a quick phone call or whatever in between sessions. And that's what I find the value in, is because sometimes it's just hearing somebody's voice.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just going, "Ooh, is this normal, Brenda? I'm feeling this." Especially when I had a client that recently we went through the process. She worked with me for 12 weeks, went through this process, amazing results. She didn't know what to do with this calm feeling. She thought she's like, Brenda, I is this okay? Am I okay? She's like, I'm not reacting to my husband, like I was, and to my kids, and I'm actually feeling more creative. But I don't. What is this? And I
It's true.
Yeah, it's true. So it's not only working through stuff, but it's also, who am I becoming?
Yeah.
And how is this normal? Because we have felt the tension or the pain or whatever that is for so long. That's become our norm, right? And then now we've got this new dynamic in our life. How do I manage that too? And that's another thing that coaches help with, is like, okay, no, this is normal. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go step by step and integrate this new life, these new feelings this new pathway for you.
Yeah, I think it's so. I love the differentiate. A differ that word's not going to come out properly, so I'm just going to simplify it and say I love the difference, right, of understanding what that the difference between coaching and therapy, but also I again I just really feel like the work that you provide is something that is so partnership oriented. Even like if you get through that 12 weeks or you get through whatever that situation is that's initially come that we come to you with, then I love that we can always go deeper and always find more things to grow and expand as a human that maybe
Yeah.
don't really feel like they affect our everyday outward life, but they actually do, because it's that internal place where I get to find calmness and peace, and I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important because I've always heard that statement, the universe abhors a vacuum. I could never understand that. It's like, what does that mean? What does a vacuum have to do with anything? But it's like when you make an empty space,
Yeah,
it fills it back up. So are you going to fill it yourself back up with the same way that you were acting for? Because our brain will do that. Neuroscience is showing that our brain will go back to the patterns of what we feel is safety.
yeah,
Whereas when we are creating these new habits and these new beliefs, because that's all we're doing
right.
is replacing the old with a new. What does that look like? I didn't know. I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to dream, what my vision was. All I knew was the codependence, and all I knew is this pain that I was in and was killing it at work, but I was afraid to go home. I was
Yeah,
afraid to go home, right?
right.
And because this relationship, I was walking on eggshells. I didn't know what to do and I was trying to please and I wanted everything to be okay. Well, that wasn't anybody's real fault. It was just the pattern and it was being shown to me through my relationships, my personal relationships, because how better to learn than through our partners, our business colleagues, our children, right? Especially, I've learned a lot through my children. And
Well,
so, right?
yeah,
Yeah. And so it's really important to be able to have the space and have someone to help you go, now, where do I want to go? Who do I want to become? What traits within me do I want to really amplify? And which ones do I kind of want to quiet down? And that way I can excel. I can choose now where I want to go in my life versus being pushed in the direction. How many people are in the job or situation, relationship that they don't want to be in,
yeah.
but they're too scared to leave?
Right. Or they don't want to be in it the way that it currently is,
Right.
and don't and think the only option is in or out.
Right. Yeah,
You
the
know what
black or white. Mhm.
and
Yeah.
I think that there's sometimes those, I mean, sometimes that is the option, right? Sometimes it's either in or out.
Yeah.
But sometimes maybe it's about being able to reformulate that relationship, and not that you have to force the other person, hey, we're going to do things differently now. But
No.
I've noticed in the work that I'm doing is that as I start to shift my thought processes, my emotions, my feelings, my, how I'm sorting things out,
Yeah.
then I come at things differently. And so then it's coming back to me much differently. And areas where there were problems before, all of a sudden those problems are kind of going away and the other person has no idea what's happening.
No, because as you shift, you are changing the energy around you so that every single relationship and every person that you come in contact with, it's going to change. It's going to shift. They're going to go, it's kind of like something's different about you. Did you change your hair? Did you, I had a client say me that. She's like, Brenda, as I was working with you, people kept saying, what's different? You're like glowing, or did you lose weight? What's something with your hair? Did you change your color? What is up? And it's because she was shifting.
Yeah.
She was releasing the baggage. She was able, the heaviness, because I think that shows, which was, the ripple effect, as I call it, it started changing these relationships and people started responding to her differently because she was responding to herself and life differently, like you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's
it's really important.
It's amazing. It's a great feeling. Like I said, I want everybody to have the feeling. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I know you've mentioned a couple of ways, and of course I know there's a couple of ways to work with you, but can you share with people what options do they have to work with you?
So the way that I work with people is I work with them one-on-one, and I also work with group. And that way I love the group dynamic. The group dynamic is so good because we all help each other, right? So I facilitate the group, but a lot of times when people get into the group, especially like for me, I was looking for like-minded people. I didn't want to feel like I was the only one, right? Because I did. I was isolated when I was couldn't figure out how to get through this relationship issue. And so the group dynamic offers this, oh my gosh, you get this too. And then we get to share all the different things that we've learned, that we've done. But it's just really the synergy of knowing I'm not alone. And that's what I find really healing for people and really fulfilling also. Because that way, and then great relationships have been formed because of that in the group dynamic. And I work with smaller groups, I don't work in a large group. So, 10 or less people in a group, because that way they get the one-on-one and then it keeps the intimacy.
Yeah.
And also when we do, and sometimes people will go, I want to go deeper than the group provides. And I have this situation that I really want to work on privately. And so therefore, then we work together for whether it's weekly or every other week, whatever. It's very personal to that person of what works with their schedule, and being able to work together for a certain length of time. Because, a lot of these situations, it's not a one and done. It's not just a, hey, I'm going to call you, we're going to get a solution and we're done. Yeah, that can happen in some cases, but in most cases, you're creating a relationship and a bond and trust. Because like Kim, you and I've talked about, the thing that we don't have is trust of ourselves or of others. Most of us have a pattern of betrayal in our lives. And so in that case, we really need to learn to trust someone on a deeper level. And when we can do that in a coaching relationship, then that gives them the confidence to be able to trust outside of themselves.
That's right. And do you find that people do that? Do you find that people will maybe start with a group setting, kind of get into it, and then will pop in and out of one-on-ones with you? They don't, maybe they'll do it for a short period of time and then stay with the group or back and forth. Do you find that happens, or do people usually just stay in like one section?
Usually they stay in one section. Usually they do like one-on-one, but then they go into the group. So they'll finish one-on-ones, go, oh, okay, now I'm ready for the group. Or they'll be in the group and then they move into one-on-one. And I've had many clients that will do group after group, right? Because they really like it. But then they will pop in, because once you've worked with me, then you can have the one-off sessions, right?
Right. Right.
If you haven't worked with me, then I want to create that bond and that trust and that relationship together. So once somebody does that and they're in the group, then we can do whenever they want. We can do the one-on-one sessions, to help with a situation that comes up, or a feeling, or they're feeling stuck in a pattern and they just need some guidance. And those are like quick. Those are like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm reminded, like we talked about, was just we're here to remind each other of what we know.
Well, I think that's really valuable, because one thing that that can be a bit intimidating is if, I love group work. I absolutely love it. And then sometimes I've got, like you said, like a little something I want to work on, but I don't necessarily want to go to somebody else and have to start all over and tell the story all over again so that we can get to the meat and potatoes. And so I love that ability to be able to just say, hey, I want to, let's address this without having to like tell your story all over again, because there's already an established relationship.
Exactly. Yes. And sometimes, and then I can refer, because sometimes it's when we get to a certain point, I get to refer people to other coaches, right?
Sure.
Because then this situation comes up too. So it's not like I'm the only thing to work with. I think it's a team. I think, as human beings, we're complex, and we get to actually, we need a lot of tools in our tool belt to be able to handle life. And so, it's like when we work together, then maybe you need some help over here with a little bit deeper dive into a money coach, or you need a business coach, or you need something else. that's a little bit more trauma informed. And so I am really willing to, I listen deeply and intently. And, it's like when we get to those points, it's really important to be able to also do that. So I want people to know that also, that, that it's just not this, we're dynamic.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that if, we don't just have one coach.
Yep.
Right.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so how can people find you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you? And because you'll do a complimentary consultation, right? You'll have
Yeah.
a one-off conversation. All
Yep.
right.
Yeah, so they can schedule the consultation that they'll see on the screen here, and it'll also be in that. We'll put it in the comments.
Great.
That you can do a bit.ly/consult with Brenda, and you can sign up for a consultation, which is, it's just to listen and see if this is a right fit. Because I am not going to bring you into something that doesn't work for you. I don't believe in that. That just goes against everything I believe in.
Right.
And that's a great place to start. The other way that to get familiar with me and what I do is also my podcast, Forgive Yourself with Brenda Reiss, Reiss. And that's a really good way to just kind of hear how I work. And then also, if they go to my website, you can read my blogs. And because that has a lot of information in it, I want to give as much as possible. And there's free resources available, that they can click on if they go to the website with the podcast page, there's a way that they can get resources too, to sign up for that. And there's also a quiz on my website that a lot of people are really liking, to find out what kind of a forgiver are you. And to be able to figure out where am I at in life, and I give ideas and tips on, maybe go this direction if you are fitting into this, what this category is, or this archetype.
Perfect. Yeah. I love it. Well, I hope anybody who has even the little bit of interest or is a little bit curious about the work that you do, just hop on over to your website. And like you said, if nothing else, take that quiz. That's how I started. I love that quiz.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a lot of compliments on it. And in the sense of, it really helps you understand kind of where am I at, especially with relationships and with yourself, because our number one relationship is with us.
That's right. Well done. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kim. This was I love talking with you. I love this.
I feel the same way.
All right. You have a great day.
Thank you. Chat soon.